It's easy to look around and see that our world is covered in a lot of brokenness and situations that seem hopeless. But there is good news. Hope is alive.
So as youth workers, often people think we deal with a lot of practical help or spiritual help, but one of the big parts of what we help kids with is mental health and addictions and getting through these dark times in life. In 2017, there were 4 or 5 main crises we could talk about. The reason we're at the hospital, because 4 of them, we had to bring the kids to the hospital so they could connect with mental health workers here.
Yeah, it was kind of a lot of controlling the situation and trying to meet the needs of what they have right now. Often they didn't really know what they wanted, and so a big role was for us to try to help them talk it through, sit with them, and just being present in their lives in some of the darkest times.
Yeah, often when we come to these situations, or sometimes the kids will come to us and say, we need your help. They'll come there. Often it's been 11:30 at night at the drop zone. And often they have taken some pills to try to, or something, some sort of substance to numb the pain already. And at that point we bring them to the hospital to get checked. Another big part of our role, as we can't read minds and we don't know what's going through their brain, we have to pray. And for me, I can think of one example of where I got to sit in the room, and when I started in the moment, when I got in there at the moment, it was a very high stress. But half an hour to an hour later, as I prayed and talked about God, read from the Bible, and that type of thing, the atmosphere just calmed right down. And that person, the student, was able to just calm down and actually think a little bit.
So we talk a lot about different students, bringing them to the hospital in their darkest times, and unfortunately the reality is that when they hit their form of rock bottom at the hospital, they don't always go up from there. They actually sometimes just stay at rock bottom for a while. But Elijah, he was an example of someone who didn't do that. He was, I remember when we went in there to see him, and he was just so adamant about going to Teen Challenge and getting his life in order. He didn't even want any help from anybody else except for some kind of Christian organization. So that was really encouraging to see that his rock bottom led him to this hope that he so desperately needed. So when we got to talk with him and work it through with him, it wasn't by any means an easy journey those few weeks, but at the end of it, God opened the door and he provided a way for Elijah to go to Thunder Bay, and he's been clean. When you look at him, you see hope. You don't see this troubled kid. You see a hope that is alive.
So after you take a kid to the hospital like this and they've tried to take their life, it really affects you emotionally. I can say most times with that I was closer to a student. I was wrecked for the next week, which was really hard when those 2 cases were 2 weeks apart, and I was about a month of a wreck between your sleep schedule completely being thrown off, because in my case it has never been I'm in the hospital from like 5 to like 8. It's I remember the one time was I was crawling into bed when I got the text at 10:30, and I came to the hospital for 11 and was here till 5. it was Sunday to Monday, and you still have to do that whole next week with everything that you have going on. I know the one experience where I actually had to physically hold down a student so that the nurses could help her. It was me and 3 nurses. How much that affects you. I think then it's important for us to talk to other people about it, so we can work through this and not get to a mental state that that student is at.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why we need our supports in place for our mental health.
I think just knowing when you come here that this kid doesn't want to live anymore, even that just wrecks your heart. It's like this kid actually doesn't know they're valuable one bit. They don't even know that someone would even care. I think if I looked at the themes of some of the kids and asked them why they were there, the theme kind of was that someone that they cared for had really disappointed them. Think of two of them were talking with their dads, one was talking with their mom, just how much they just felt these people didn't care. Maybe they actually did care, they just didn't feel it, but just so much disappointment and hurt in their life, and it's just hard to watch them say no one cares. And that's where we come in and say, actually, we care and God cares.
I had one that does not believe that God exists, and it was so hard as I told her that God cares about you for her to say, yeah, but he's not real. To know the truth that yes, he is real and he does love you, hon, but that she was not willing to accept it, and that all I could say was, well, then you know that I am here.
On May 27th, the Dropzone staff is coming to your church. We are giving you an opportunity to make a donation to help us reach our yearly fundraising goal of $70,000. Please pray and ask the Lord what He would have you give. Thank you.